Hello, class. I am not going to be with you today, but I will be able to share the notes with you so you can go back and listen to anything that you miss. The objective today is I will analyze the Holocaust, and the do now is to write one fact that you already know about the Holocaust. You should go to Google Classroom and you should go to the About tab to go to My Notebook and copy down everything like you normally do. You can pause this while you do that and then press play when you're done. There's one part of vocabulary that you need to know before we move on to today's lesson, and that is Jewish. What Jewish means is it's a race of people descended from Abraham, and the star located right here is called the Star of David, and it's been the Jewish symbol for many years. It also means that you are a member of a religion called Judaism. So one of the hardest things to understand about being Jewish is that some people are born Jewish and they do not practice the religion. Other people are not born Jewish and they convert to Judaism and they go to church in temple. So you can be born Jewish or you can be a religious Jewish person and not actually be a descendant of Abraham. It can be confusing, and a little research online can clear that up for you. Used in a sentence, and this is something that I do every year because I hear a lot of students say this incorrectly. Adam Sandler is Jewish. That is okay to say. Adam Sandler is a Jew. That is also okay to say. Adam Sandler is a Jewish. That is not okay to say. So look at the first two used in a sentence. That is the correct way to say that someone is Jewish. The word Holocaust means death by fire on a large scale. And if you look at the picture, that is a picture of Auschwitz, which is a place in Poland where 1.5 million Jews were killed. If you take a look at this map, the areas that are black on the map had 80 to 90% of their Jewish populations killed during the Holocaust. The other countries that were occupied by the Nazis had much less people killed, but still a high percent. Before the war, Jews were living in every country in Europe before the Nazis came into power in 1933. There was approximately 9 million Jews living in all of Europe. Poland and the Soviet Union had the largest populations of Jewish people. Jews could be found in all walks of life. They could be farmers, doctors, factory workers, business people, doctors, teachers, and craftsmen. So just because a person was a certain kind of job did not mean that they were or they were not Jewish. They're like any other race of people. So the question that we're going to answer today is, what was the Holocaust? How did it happen? And why did it happen? And we're going to be spending the next couple of days answering these questions. The first thing that we need to talk about is something called anti-Semitism. And if you look at this picture in the corner, that is a very racist picture of a Jewish person that was drawn in Nazi Germany. One thing you'll notice is that they have the yarmulke, and they have a very large nose, they have a beard, and they're seen to be kind of greedy and mischievous. They've faced prejudice and discrimination for over 2,000 years, especially from people who are Christians, including Lutherans, which is what many of the German Christian population was during Nazi Germany. So why did Germans persecute these groups? The first one we're going to look at is the Jews. Hitler needed a scapegoat to blame for all of Europe's problems. So when he looked around, he chose a group of people that were already disliked. He chose the Jews. Anti-Semitism means hatred of the Jews. And this had existed in Europe for quite a few years, as we just talked about. If you look at this picture, this is a picture that describes what the Aryan race looks like. And you can see this was drawn in Nazi Germany in 1938. And this was the idea that the Aryan race, the Germans, were like supermen. They were better than all the other races, according to them. They typically had blonde hair, they were very athletic, and they wanted to populate the earth. This was Germany's master race philosophy. Everyone who wasn't German or Aryan were in what's called the second class. So if you take a look at the photo, this would be another example of what an Aryan person would look like. And they were the master race, blonde hair, blue-eyed. They were superior. They must be preserved. And all other races, including the Jewish race, were deemed inferior and should be either slaves or killed. There were other minorities targeted as well. One of them were physically handicapped, so people who had some kind of physical ailment would also be deemed as inferior. People who were mentally handicapped. The Gypsies, at the time they were called Gypsies, today we call them Roma. And they were a group of people similar to the Jews that had their own religion, and they lived all throughout Europe. They typically stuck together, and they were seen as not fitting into German society. Homosexuals and Jehovah's Witnesses, which are another religion, were also targeted as being less than Aryan. So on the right here, you have a Jewish passport. And if you notice this J right here, this would indicate to everybody that a person was Jewish. And it allowed the police to easily identify them. Because if you look at a Jewish person, you're not sure if they're actually Jewish. This would be the only way that somebody could know a person is Jewish, especially if they weren't wearing a yarmulke or if they didn't have a beard. They would be easy to blend into society. So the final solution, according to Hitler, was genocide. This is the deliberate and systematic killing of an entire population. In this case, it was Jewish people, along with all the other groups that we talked about. This is the inside of a gas chamber in Auschwitz, and what Hitler had planned was for the prisoners in the concentration camps and in the death camps to line up and be told that they were going to take a shower. So the men would be in one shower, the women would be in a different shower. They would be given soap, and they would be told that as soon as they go into this room, the water would turn on and they would be able to be cleaned. And keep in mind that most of the prisoners didn't get to take showers, so this was seen as being a real treat for them. So as soon as the doors were shut, instead of water coming out of the faucets, the spigots up here at the top, a gas came out, and the doors were sealed, and all of the people inside the room died in a matter of minutes. And the Nazis used this way to save bullets and also to cause less people to be panicked. So eventually the prisoners in the concentration camps, they would know what was going to happen, but this was the way that the Nazis used to keep the panic levels down. If you look at this picture, this is from the Auschwitz death camp in Poland, and what the Nazis would do is they would make the prisoners take off all of their shoes and the rest of their belongings, and there were piles of shoes in these death camps. Here's a picture of Jews being forced to relocate. So the way that the Nazis would get the Jewish people into the death camps is they would find all of the Jewish people living in a city, and they would force them to move to one section of the city. That's what a ghetto is. A ghetto means that it is a section of a city that is full of one group of people,